Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. Disclaimer. Everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Okay, so we've done 4 lives on this whole change of venue situation so far, and it took 3 lives for us to go through the 320 something pages or so that Bryan Kohberger's defense team dropped for support of change of venue, and then we went over the 22-page objection that the state filed about a week or so ago. Interruption number 1. I recorded this video before we ended up getting the response from Bryan Kohberger's team to the state's objection for the change of venue. That dropped on 8/20. That video thumbnail looks like this. If you haven't seen it yet, we go over the entire document. It's not a live. It's one of my normal read-throughs. So I'm going to let the rest of this run because all of it is still valid. But then at the end of this, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to give an updated opinion about everything now that we have a new document. Now, as I'm reading this in the live, and my opinion has not changed, I am true to what I believe here. The state's arguments are a lot stronger in this one because of the way that the defense fought it. So let me, I guess, explain here. One of the arguments that the state has is that the county that the defense wants to move to is Ada County, you know which one I'm talking about. And when it comes to all of the statistics and stuff that we read when it comes to the biasness, that's apparently the reasoning for all of the change of venue stuff, right? Ada County and Latah County's percentages were basically identical, meaning that changing it to Ada County wouldn't really do much good whatsoever when it comes to the actual principle of the reasoning behind the change of venue motion being even filed in the first place. It makes the fight null and void for them to then say, oh, but we want to move to a county where it's basically the exact same. One of the other ones, I can't recall off the bat whether it's Bannock or Canyon. It's one of the two. Okay, I wanted to put the right answer in here and it took me forever to finally find what I was looking for. But okay, as it shows right here, 90% of Canyon County and 84% of Bannock County survey respondents were familiar with the case. That is a higher number, but whenever you look at the rest of the numbers compared to Ada and Latah County, they are definitely the less saturated area, and that continues on to show that in the graphs. Let's see. There's a telephone survey. They did 202 surveys in Bannock and 200 in Canyon. And look at the chart right here. Look how little bit of coverage they have, both Canyon and Bannock compared to everything else. See, here too, their numbers are pretty close, but look at that compared to the other two choices. They had a lot lower percentages. They're smaller, right? So, which means that they don't have as big as a jury pool to select the bad seeds out of like Ada County does. But their statistics were a lot better when it comes to the actual fight at hand here. So it doesn't make any sense to me as the defense attorney to sit here and state that, oh, my client has no way ever going to get a fair trial in this county. So I need to move over here where 1% less people actually think he's guilty. Because that's basically the fight with that. So when the state is claiming this doesn't make any sense because the defense just wants to move to a county that's basically the same as what they're claiming Latah County is, sorry, the state wins that argument. They basically go back and forth and they try to attack some of the cases that the defense used. And I sort of agree with it because it seems as if Ann Taylor is not using the type of ammo that she could be. She's using a lot of really, really irrelevant things. And I don't understand why. And that right there is why the state's argument sounds so strong, because they're easily able to combat and make null and void the arguments that the defense is using. And I'm not understanding that. It's like she doesn't really know what's what here. So, okay, I'm going to have to pause for just a second to introduce you to today's sponsor, because this is probably the most important ad for my entire sponsorship that I have done so far. Did you know that almost 3 billion United States citizens' Social Security numbers have been leaked? Did you know that this leak happened April of 2004 and they just informed the public about a week ago? If you had Aura, you would have known back in April, because Aura doesn't wait for the government to tell them that something has happened. They are constantly searching the dark web for your personal information. All you have to do is sign up for a 14-day free trial with my link below. Go to aura.com/jules. That is aura.com/JULEZ. Aura not only protects your social security number, your address, your ID, your email addresses to make sure everything stays off of the dark web. They also have public records deletion programs that helps you get your information off of these horrible little nasty websites out there that just leak people's info all over the place. Not only that, but they have a VPN that you can utilize on several different devices, and you can also keep a very, very close eye on what your children are doing on the internet. We all know how important that is these days. This is an insane situation. You are on your own. You only can protect yourself, and you need to utilize the tools that are in front of you. Technology is scary, but the same technology that can hurt you can help you, and that's what Aura does. So again, the link down below will send you to get a 14-day, that's a 2-week free trial to put your information in, see if you are part of the leak, see what other pieces of your very personal, private, and secret information is out there on the internet that could end up harming you, harming your credit, harming your bank account, harming your job. You just never know. You literally never know anymore. So that is aura.com/JULEZ for a 2-week free trial. Protect yourself. You're all you've got. Now back to the video. They mentioned one from Louisiana where a bank robbery led to a homicide, and the defendant was afforded a presumption of prejudice where his videotaped confession during a police interrogation was aired to local news 3 times and seen by thousands of people. Now, that one was apparently cited by the defense, and we've had literally no utterings of Bryan Kohberger whatsoever at all. So that's definitely not an argument that the defense can actually have here, because it has nothing to do with what actually has happened whatsoever in this case so far. Then there was another one where it states that during court hearing proceedings, a judge allowed unmitigated camera access into the courtroom, including the filming of jurors' faces. Now, if you go into this case, it's literally like this judge just needs to be replaced because he's stupid. Like, it's literally the judge just allowed the media to come in and sit right in front of the jurors, to sit right where they could see all the table stuff. He literally allowed it. Like, it was something that he gave permission to and chose to do. Now, so far, that has nothing to do whatsoever with this Idaho case, because Judge took control of the cameras whenever the stupid media guys that were the camera pool didn't follow instructions. Judge, most of you guys will remember this hearing, and I mentioned it in the live. He said he didn't want them zooming in and out on Bryan's face, trying to get information from zooming in on cameras, laptop screens and paperwork on the tables. And literally, as these sentences are being spoken out of the judge's mouth, the camera guy zooms in real close on Bryan's face in complete defiance. So the camera people got removed, and now we have centralized cameras, and these systems should be in every courtroom across America. Okay, it should be stationary cameras, stationary microphones, one button to turn it on and one button to turn it off. No crazy sweeps of the screen. This isn't reality TV. This isn't a movie. Okay, it should be like this everywhere. I love the fact that they did this. It needed to happen. I mentioned this needed to happen, that it needs to happen everywhere, and then it happened. I couldn't be happier. Now, I was under the impression, guys, that we've already decided that this is how the trial was also going to take place, that it was going to be live streamed. It was going to be done this way through the YouTube page. But am I wrong in thinking that? I don't know. I am now remembering that I wasn't too sure about that. And now I'm recording this video and I'm still not too sure. I just did a super quick search, and apparently, yeah, we have already decided that it was going to be live streamed. So yeah, it is sort of ridiculous that that argument is being put in here whenever the whole point is that they want to change it from the venue where the cameras are actually already stabilized and that problem is already taken care of. because I don't know how the Ada County courthouse live streamed or televised whatever the Daybell cases. I don't know if those are court cameras or if there was a pool, and it would probably be a lot more of a conversation piece for me to just leave that as an open-ended question. So for those that watched the Chad Daybell and the Lori Vallow cases, do you know if it was court monitored cameras like the way that we have right now in Latah County with what we're seeing every time we watch the Bryan Kohberger hearings together? Or are they going to be having to bring in a camera pool the way that the case used to be handled before they got their privileges taken away? Let me know in the comments, because I honestly do not know. I would appreciate a better view of the trial because their camera systems are crap. It's grainy. The microphones are horrible. As many millions of dollars, let's just face it, as many millions of dollars as this case has cost, they could have definitely implemented a better camera system, one that actually makes more sense, something that you can actually see, because there's going to be all kinds of discovery photos, people coming in to testify that we're going to want to actually be able to see their faces, read facial expressions, see things, not just colorful little staticky blobs like we do now. Now, one argument that I felt like was completely just weak as hell, and again, my stance was the same in the live as it is now, is whenever he tried to state that the survey data was actually inadequate because it didn't report how many individuals declined to take the survey, which they claim, the state claims, raises concerns about non-response bias. And this was my argument with this. All right. Do you answer your phone for numbers that are unknown, that you don't have saved to your contacts? Do you answer the phone? And if you do happen to be those few people out there in the world that actually still answer their phone for unknown numbers, if I were to answer the phone and give you only my first name and say that I needed to speak to you, but before I could say anything to you, I needed your personal information, like for you to validate who you were and tell me your name and validate that you live in a certain county and all these things, would you just willy-nilly answer those questions? I feel like whenever somebody would get a phone call for some survey about something, you would instantly feel like it was a scam and just hang up if you actually answered the phone. Maybe back in like the days that Bill Thompson actually remembers, that would be different, because back before caller ID, you just answered the phone because it made a noise. You didn't ever know who the hell was on the other side. You didn't. You just answered the phone. So getting answers and maybe having like a non-response bias might be a thing from back in the day. But in today's day and age where we literally have hackers left and right, I don't feel like people declining to take the survey is any sort of non-response bias in today's day and age. So I feel like on this one, the state's argument is just weak and irrelevant to today. Another argument that they had was this. It states the majority of the survey focused on prospective jurors' knowledge of the information already within the court record and admissible at trial. And that's not actually true at all. That's not true at all. As far as I can tell from whenever they had the hearing about the change of venue survey that was going on, and what we learned from that PowerPoint presentation was that this is literally all stuff that was taken from media. It wasn't taken from the court record. Now, the court record is public information, and it would have been something that was used as a reference or a source for the media, but it was the media that was pulled. It didn't have anything to do with court record or whatever was considered admissible at trial. So again, the state's argument is null and void here too, because that's not the basis of it whatsoever. Just to give more detail to that, which is pretty much how we already assumed that it went based off of the context that we have been getting this entire time. But it was also verified in the response that was posted yesterday. Again, it looks like this, that they didn't go to YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, social media, or anything like that either. It was literally local media sources, the Idaho Statesman, the news station that the friend of Ethan and Xana's worked at, places like that were actually stationed locally in the county. Nothing online. It would be too difficult for them to go through everything and validate exactly where the sources were, or to go to a podcast and go through all of the listeners and see just how many listeners actually came from those counties. It's just too broad. It's way too broad. So that's why they stick to just literally localized brick and mortar type news stations, newspapers, that kind of media source for these surveys. Now, when it comes to the false statements, I feel like Santa is still salty about having to come out and admit that stuff. And that's really just based on the way that he left a footnote whenever they talked about it. Now, it shows here the 3 statements that this next section is about. Have you read, seen, or heard if university students in Moscow and their parents lived in fear until Bryan Kohberger was arrested for the murders? That would never be anything that was part of the court record or anything that would be admissible at trial, because that's an emotional situation for an environment and would have nothing to do with case fact. That's not anything that would be part of the court record at all. This is something that was being discussed in the community and in the media, because this whole thing is about media information and how it is actually soaked into the public before they can actually be part of a, actual jury pool. The next one, have you read, seen, or heard if Bryan Kohberger stalked one of the victims? And of course, the next one is, have you read, seen, or heard if Bryan Kohberger had followed one of the victims on social media? Now, their argument is this. I'm going to read these little portions to you, and then I'll read that footnote. According to Dr. Edelman's report, 45%, which is less than half, because, apparently we're too stupid to know that, so they have to put it in parentheses, of Latell County residents survey responded yes when asked if they had read, seen, or heard the defendant stalked one of the victims. You know why they read, seen, or heard that? Because your PCA lays out a bunch of boo-boo that the mainstream then took and interpreted however they wanted to, and then they pushed out a story, and y'all didn't come out and retract the information or tell them, hey, you've got it wrong. That's why. The report did not indicate the response rate for the other counties surveyed. Similarly, 45% of Latell County residents responded yes when asked if they had read, seen, or heard that defendant followed one of the victims on social media. Yeah, of course they did, because that's what everyone kept pushing, including the Goncalveses, with no actual proof. And even the mainstream sources that would have the Goncalveses on to talk about it would then have a disclaimer at the top that they can't validate the claims. That's extremely important. Dr. Edelman reported that only 35% of Ada County respondents reported having heard this information, but did not report on the responses from the other 2 counties, which is fine, I guess, but I understand why they would want all of the information. Now, this is the footnote that's salty, in my opinion. Okay, number 7. In his report, Dr. Edelman writes that only after the rumors of stalking had proliferated through the media and on social media for 16 months, then the prosecutor clarified in the April 2024 hearing that it was untrue. It is unclear why Dr. Edelman seems to believe the prosecutor is under an affirmative duty to make public comment about the veracity of social media rumors, and it is a strange observation indeed, given that approximately 220 Latell County residents, 55% of 400, because again, they think we're stupid, who responded to the telephone survey apparently heard this rumor for the first time directly from the survey company retained by the defense. While that might be an interesting statistic, that's still 45% of your people that already had heard those rumors. That little 5% one way or the other doesn't really change much of anything. If you felt the need to come out now and claim that these are false statements, then why didn't y'all do some actual justice to this case and come out and clear up a bunch of crap? Because y'all had no problem in the very beginning coming out and stating that there was no tying up and stuff like that, okay? Y'all had no problem clearing people within less than a week of this situation, okay? So why can't you come out now and clear up some of this? You could. So then one of the other arguments that they make is that basically the jurors in Latell County, because they're part of the community, would basically be peer pressured or made to be afraid if they don't come up with the right decision of either A, making sure that they vote guilty for him, or B, whenever he is found guilty, then voting yes to the death penalty. And they do give some, at least one example of this, but let's not sit here and pretend like this isn't a situation, because the state's trying to act like it's not a big deal and it's just a whole bunch of crap and it's just like basically like fear mongering, but we know the truth, don't we? As people with brains that know how these things work, you know damn well that's how it would be. And if you didn't vote the way that they wanted you to vote and they found out about it, then yeah, your family probably would be in danger of being doxxed. Your company, if you worked at a company or ran a company, would probably be, you'd probably end up losing your job eventually and your company ran into the ground, because let's freaking face it, that's what happens. That's what happens. So to sit here and state that, this might have happened in 1984, but that there's no reason to think that would happen now, is just as irrelevantly out of scope as his argument about non-response bias. In response to this, in the document drop from yesterday, Ann Taylor had little fragments of what the Latah County respondents answered to whenever they were asked what they thought would happen if Bryan Kohberger was found not guilty in Latah County. Let me just go ahead and replay this little clip. The pressure to convict Bryan Kohberger is so severe in Latah County, survey respondents said if he wasn't convicted, they'd burn the courthouse down. Outrage would be a mild description. They would probably find him. Yeah, we've kind of questioned that. There would likely be a riot, and he wouldn't last long outside because someone would just do good old boy justice. Enraged, strong opinions, firing of officers. Riots, parents would take him out. I mean, we've seen Steve. So, now granted, they probably just took the worst ones and put them in there for dramatic effect. Let's face it, that's what this whole thing is. It's a huge show, okay? But the sentiment still stands. I mean, we've seen the way that humans do behave whenever court cases don't go the way that the public thinks that they should. Whether it be physically or online, people get cray-cray. We just need to face the fact that that's our reality now. Next. Now, I don't believe the statement that the citizens of Moscow are like victims twice removed or some crap like that. I don't. I just don't. Unless you actually knew the victims themselves and had an actual direct connection to them, I don't. Most of them have gone on about their lives and they don't even think twice about it. I don't believe that at all. Now, if you have been in that county, in that area for a super long time, and you have blood ties to the community that are deep rooted in the community, I understand how maybe they would feel that way for some of them, but let's just face it that most of these people are travelers. They're college students that are only there to get an education and then they're leaving. They're not really part of the community. They might be registered there for, 4 years or so while they're there, but they aren't staples of that area. So I don't really feel like that's a statement that should be broad-banded just because so many people that live there are not actually from there. Some people disagree with that, and that's fine. You can have your opinion, but stating that the whole town are basically victims as well is very much just reaching, in my opinion. Now, one of the other things that's mentioned in here is something that I actually didn't think of, and I wish I would have, that instead of them moving the entire thing hundreds of miles away, why can't they just bring in other jurors? I know that they go in here and they start talking about the price differences and how much it would cost for stuff, but they're also stating that if they end up moving it, they have to house all these staff. They have to house the victims immediate families in places so they don't have to go back and forth. They have to give them accommodations, right? It would be, in my opinion, after going through and kind of balancing it, whenever you take the fact that you'd have to do it with all the staff and all of the family and then all of the other precautions and all of the other agencies, and on top of that, whenever you pull the staff away from Latah County to move them to Ada County or wherever it ends up being moved to, you also have to have people put in their positions, which causes a whole bunch of other crazy, right? It would be a lot easier if they could bring in jurors from outside counties to come to Latah County and just sequester them to where, they're paid and however the whole thing is or whatever. People would willingly do that because of how big this case is. I don't think it would be a problem to get jurors to show up to be selected from at all. And honestly, I agree with the state on this one. I feel like this could be a good middle ground because, like I said in the live, I might feel one way or another about the Goncalveses, but the facts are the facts, and the facts are that the victims deserve to be just as much accommodated in this as Bryan does. And with his family being so far away, moving it isn't going to benefit Bryan's family any whatsoever. They're either going to be there locally for it or they're going to be joining in from Zoom every day. We don't know. We don't know what the plan's going to be. We don't know if they're going to end up showing up in court at the very end of it, come sentencing or the judgment day of guilty or innocent. We don't know what's going to happen. But we do know they're so far away that I highly doubt they're going to be there for the whole thing. I do wonder if they would extend the same accommodations to Bryan's family that they would to the victims' families because of it being a court move situation. I don't know. But to me, it would make more sense for them to just be able to bring jurors in so that the families are not so displaced. Now, while that still might be the most financially sound decision, we all know that they don't really seem to give a damn about how many millions of dollars get spent here. Okay, that's pretty obvious. It also would be the one that would be the most in the middle to sort of give everyone a little bit of satisfaction, but still not give everyone everything that they want. That's usually how they like these things to go. But the basic argument here, like I've been hounding on, and so I can't be a hypocrite about it, the basic argument here is how fair Latah County can or cannot be to Bryan Kohberger. And the reality is just that it cannot be. I really feel that even if a jury gets brought in that is in such a hostile environment, that it will easily just fall into this new jury that comes in from the outside, and then the outside will then become tainted. I mentioned this in my video about the document. I go pretty universal about it, talking about water molecules and all kind of things. It's an interesting little listen. So yeah, while I still believe that's the most financial in the middle gray area, everyone gets a little bit of what they want and should be satisfied enough answer, it doesn't resolve the problem. Latah County cannot be fair to Bryan Kohberger, and it's just really that simple, guys. Now, I do kind of find it funny that they're mentioning the witnesses when it comes to this, because to me, the only real witnesses there would be the witnesses from that night. And if they've told us any truth, it would only be Dylan and Bethany. To say that they care about one way or another when it comes to the convenience of the witnesses, I'm just like, okay, so the witnesses who don't want to come back across state line, who don't want to make sure that justice is actually like done for their friends, who, in my opinion, if they really thought that Bryan was the right guy, they'd have no issue coming across state line and actually being there. So yeah, I'm not really too worried about what's convenient for them. I'm just saying. Now, they also mentioned the Daybell trial, and I didn't know that people had to like sign up a day ahead and get a ticket to be in the courtroom the next day because of how popular it was. And that's one thing that a viewer, Heather, mentioned, was that it's bigger. So that could be the main reason why Anne's team wants to move it there, for security and just the fact that the venue is much bigger. And I do agree with that part of it. It's going to be a very popular event. Okay. There's going to be a lot of people there, a lot of media, a lot of citizens. All right. But the whole basis of this fight is the biasness of Latah County because of the information out there in the media, not the size of the courtroom or the convenience of the parking. See my point? That's what I mean by that. They made a statement about Chief Fry and how he is going to be running for sheriff. And they did make a good point, because this was something that was mentioned about how he would sort of be part of like them getting the jurors to like come in and like bringing them in to figure out what's going to happen. And they basically were just like, we can have somebody else step in. If it's going to be a big problem and he's actually elected as sheriff, then we can just have somebody designated to do it besides him. Not a big deal, which that's fine. If you can be flexible and do all those things, I'm fine with it too. Now, I would really like to know what it is about Nez Perce County that Thompson keeps bringing up, because he mentioned it a few months ago in a hearing. And I was like, well, I mean, now you're mentioning where you want to go. So basically, it's going to be a fight, in my opinion, on the 29th, the hearing that's coming up on 8/29. It's going to be between the state wanting to move to Nez Perce, the defense wanting to move to Ada County, or them bussing in a jury pool. I think that's going to kind of be like the three things we go in between. Okay, so it is August 21st, and we have gone through all three filings. We have gone through the actual filing for change of venue with all of the support that was filed by the defense. We then went through the state's objection, and now we have gone through the defense's response to the state's objection. Again, if you haven't seen those, that's what these look like. Okay, there'll be a link in the description box if you need to catch up on all of those things. But after going through all of those and it being right now, hopefully this video posts today, the 21st. It might not post for another day or two. It all depends on whenever it gets approved. But right now, one of two things now I think will happen. I don't think that they're going to consider bringing anybody in. I really just don't think so, because their whole entire fight is that they want to prove that Latah County can be unbiased and that they can be fair. That really seems like what it is. Like, they really want the residents of Latah County to have a chance to do it correctly. So they're either going to try to leave it there, or they're going to approve the move to Ada County. Ada will probably end up being the ending spot for this trial, but I don't know why something is telling me that they are going to try to keep it in Latah County first, and then they're going to realize whenever they go through the jury pool that they just can't do it, that they can't find enough people in the time frame that they have. And if anything, it's either going to stay in Latah County and they're going to end up having a million more delays because it's going to take forever to find the right jury, and then there's probably going to be like some sort of appeal for how that went, or they're going to get to going through the jury and realize they just can't get enough people and that it's just way too tainted, and then they're going to have to approve the Ada County move, and then they're going to have to go through going through getting jurors to come in then again. Like, I feel like this right here is going to be a really, 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 really super big issue, and they're going to use this to push back a lot of things. I don't want it to happen that way. We should have had trial a year and a half ago, honestly, because what extra stuff has happened since then? Not a lot. Everything was already accumulated. We're just now getting information about stuff they've already had, so that it's not like anything brand new has happened. It's just ridiculous to me. But anyway, that's what I'm assuming is going to happen. And again, change of venue hearing is 8/29 on a Thursday. There will be a link for the live stream that will be happening on this channel for the hearing. And as we usually do, it will be full screen. I will be in chat listening along with you guys when it's over and everyone gets off work and has dinner and all the things. We'll go live and we will discuss what happened. I wonder if we even get an answer same day. Sometimes the judge likes to take his time and say that he has to think about it, and then we get a filing in a week or so. So, yeah. But that seems to be about it. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments. If you like the way that I present this information and give my opinion, please do not forget to leave a like on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. See y'all.